So I saw someone made stuff for Game Gear, so I bought that. They're only about $5. I was like, oh hell yeah, hell yeah! Instead of
Did you
just
have
having it
were
laying
there
out.
cardboard? Did you have cardboard cases for Game Gear games over in the US?
And that's what
Too?
I thought
when I
they
was
were
looking up. When I was
plastic.
looking up, it did say it. Not that it did say. No one said anything, but it was like the photo was like of cardboard, and I was like, don't
Hmm.
really
Yeah,
want to
we had
take
we had
cardboard.
cardboard. We had cardboard
I don't know.
cases for Game.
I don't really want to mess with cardboard. I'd rather just have an actual physical
Yeah, T will
little
be able to
box.
confirm that. But anyway, we're live with the Juice of Loose podcast here, and Robert picked up some new Game Gear games for his collection.
For my non-existent right now.
Oh, Retro's muted. We didn't
Retro,
mic
you're
test.
muted. Or,
That's
or
all
your
right.
mic is fucked.
It's okay.
That means
We don't
that
need-
means it's going to be a good podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. He can't
Retro,
rebuttal.
your mic is fucked, bro.
He can't do
Fix
anything
your
about
mic,
it.
Retro. he done fucked all his shit.
All right, so let's start off with any new games or any games you beat since last week. And we'll start with Robert. Did you start any new games or beat any new games in the past week?
I didn't start any new games, but I did finish with my stepdad Portal 2, the co-op campaign, and that shit was incredible, dude. I mean, like, genuinely mind-numbing puzzles, but they're really great. You know, where I can't even fathom how it was to develop that game where you shoot one portal to the side, then you see yourself, and then you can
yeah,
see
then you got to
yourself
build up
different-
momentum so you can shoot across the gap.
It's so crazy. Like I can't even.
Does the
comprehend,
co-op
like,
have the
how they
story
did it.
with the robot companion who's funny as hell?
No.
No?
You're talking about Wheatley or whatever, right? No,
Yeah.
he's in the main campaign, but you get two really cool robot guys that you play as in the campaign, and so I really enjoyed that, and then there's like some free DLCs that we've been playing through now, and it's like we're on the last level, and literally we're there for like an hour, and I was like, all right, we gotta just stop, 'cause I don't understand.
Nice. So Retro,
really
are you
good.
there? And he's frozen. He's
Retro,
motionless.
Retro, you're stuck in time.
I did notice
It's a rift in time.
It's really-
Ah.
How about Clacked? Did you start or beat anything in the past week?
Oh God, no! My gaming has been pretty miserable. I'm at the end of Bloodborne now. At least the main campaign.
I thought you gave up on that playthrough.
No, I went back, but I'm at the end of it now, so I'll probably complete it tomorrow.
I need to clock that senpai's
Yeah.
help.
We got to
Yeah,
go to
sure.
Terrell next because Retro's frozen in time.
And then
here.
I've been playing Bravely Default 2. For the first time, I've actually turned that game down to easy. 'Cause,
Really?
Yeah, I just think the difficulty spike at the beginning, it just kicked my ass. It just do my head in. So I basically completed the desert. And now I feel a bit more pumped up. So I turned it back up to normal, but I needed to put it down to easy.
You might turn it back down. I'm gonna warn you in advance.
Is it? Yeah, it's a hard game, man. It's a hard game. So
I have like 70 hours in it. I just
yeah,
can't.
and then just on my screen behind me, I've been playing Shining Force 3, which I'm really getting back into. Absolutely loving it. So yeah, just Bloodborne, Bravely, and the Saturn. That's what I roll.
All right, T. Retro Death. He couldn't hear him, so he had to bail. So we don't know if he'll be back. But why don't you? Did you start any games in the past week or beat any games for the first time?
Yeah, man. The Kraken is lacking.
Oh,
I started Halo last week. Finished it, I think, Friday night.
Mm.
And, man, it was pretty meh. Pretty... Halo 5, by the way. Halo 5. Guardians. It was the most cookie-cutter, by-the-numbers Halo I think I've ever played. It was just so bland. It wasn't bad. It was, it was the gunfighting, all that was there. It was good, but it was just so bland. Like there was nothing memorable. Like I remember, like memorable. How do I say, shootouts or whatever in the other Halo games, like arenas, where stuff was cool going down. And it's funny because a lot of people like gave. And probably still do give Breath of the Wild crap for like not that many enemies and recurring enemies. good God, does Halo 5 have returning enemies throughout? I think the first 30 minutes, you've seen every enemy in the game besides one. And you just keep getting the same recycled enemies through the entire game. It is so bland. And I don't even remember any mini boss, or was there any mini like boss fights? There was one boss fight, and it was the one enemy. I can't remember his name. He was like this robot kind of AI character. And maybe the governor of this planet who turned out to be like an AI. Other than that, that's all I can remember. As far I just played the goddamn game, so it was super bland.
Yeah, I wonder if Roy Relapse pops in. He's probably the biggest Halo fan by far I know, and I'm curious.
Well, I just I always speak to Roy about Halo, but it's funny, like you mentioned, like the bland enemy types, repeating characters and stuff. Yeah, because the first Halo, you essentially only really had 4 covenant enemy types.
Yeah.
But the difference was when that came out is that each one played their role so well, and especially if you came across elites you really feared.
They were like,
so they were consistent threats. So if you get rid of that, then they just become normal enemies, and that's what it becomes. I can imagine that becoming boring. Then yeah. So I can understand where T's coming from, probably in terms of
But I mean, I beat it, and I discovered the Kraken is lacking
achievement,
and there's like no way that's a coincidence. You said, oh, the game came out earlier than I think he was starting that Kraken is lacking thing, which is true, but achievements aren't, they don't always have those right at the beginning of the game. Those are things that they sometimes develop later and update the game with. And it's just, there's no way, it just makes no sense for them to randomly come up with Kraken is lacking for an achievement. It had to be from next gen. There's no other way around it. Because that's not like a phrase. It's not like a random phrase.
Maybe he got it from, I don't think he played Halo. He's not a Halo guy, but anyway.
No, he doesn't like Halo, so I know he didn't get it from Halo. They clearly got it from him. One of the developers, because he used to say all the time, you'd be surprised who listens to your podcast and who watches your videos.
Yeah, because
I would put money on it.
Didn't it stem from Sea of Thieves? How if the underwater, the Kraken would disappear?
Yeah, had the Kraken in it. It had only arms, and then it went underwater. I guess somebody went underwater and saw there was nothing there. It was just the arms. So he started this whole Kraken is lacking thing. The podcasts, driving people insane, driving Xbox crazy, and there's just no way. There's no way that achievement isn't from.
You could probably look up when the achievement. You could look up when the achievement came out. Like you could look up like online, like there's any videos, like of a year.
I think he started it around 2016, somewhere around there. I think that's when he started saying.
We had to look up the lore of Crumb Side comedy and see if it correlates with the achievement.
Kraken is looking.
I had a.
It's like detective work.
Here's the thing: the achievement, the word lacking in the achievement makes no sense because you fight this Kraken. It's called this Kraken ship, and the achievement isn't from you lacking anything. It comes from you just not. It comes from you beating that level without taking out any of the turrets. So that has nothing to do with lacking anything, right? It clearly came from him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it to me.
Well, listen, we get memes.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a conspiracy theory now, yo.
Well, I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, it's funny regardless.
Yeah,
it's super funny regardless. But
yeah,
I feel like there's no way. It's not like release the Kraken. It could have been release the Kraken, right? That's what everybody knows.
Yeah.
It wasn't released to Kraken. It was Kraken is lacking. I mean, come on. There's no reason for it to be that
from the beginning.
All right. What about you, Terrell? Did you finish Bloodborne or anything yet?
Oh man, that's why I said I wish I had clocked it, guided me, because I think the last boss fight I did, and I remember Clark, you put in the chat like, "Oh, bro, you're drunk."
Is that where you're taking out all the guys above for no reason?
Yes, yeah. There's like 6 witches or some shit throwing fireballs at you while you're dealing with this giant I don't know what you call it. It's like some amalgamation of body parts
Yeah, I
throwing
seen it.
poison and shit at you, and you have to fucking. And from what I kept hearing was the recommended strategy is kill all the witches and then fight the boss. Usually, what ended up happening to me is I would kill the witches and then I would die to the boss, and then like, well, fuck, I gotta waste all this time and energy killing all the witches again. And then clock is like, oh, by the way, you didn't have to kill all the witches, and I'm like, fuck, I killed it.
You
I
just gotta
killed
tap
it.
that ass, man. Just keep tapping that ass.
I killed it, so I'm gonna take my W regardless. But god damn it, that shit was so frustrating. Yakuza 0 is fucking amazing. I'm almost done with it. I have like 3 more chapters left. That shit is so fucking good. The last couple of chapters have been great. That story is so good. I also like kicking people off of cliffs. That's hilarious to me. And then Bravely Default, I just got stuck into a grinding mode. I'm not gonna lie. Like now, I just want to max out the jobs for the fuck of it. And I'm pulling a Shadow Fox. I'm like near the end of the game, and I won't just finish the fucking game. I just want to grind. And I want to make my characters broken. And then
the jobs don't take long to max either, do they? Well, it's like just level 12. Isn't it?
It's
Level
12, but I found out once you beat the game, they go up to 15.
Well,
So
so beat the game, yo, so you get 15, yo.
Well, listen. There's so many strategies, and then on top of that, there's optional jobs that you don't have to get through the main story. And I didn't realize that that game's just addictive. And then I did a little bit more Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter is fun. Monster Hunter just takes time and investment, and I need to beat Bravely to just focus completely on it. So yeah, I think those are the 4 games I've been playing.
All right, I don't know if Retro's coming back, so I guess I'll just go. His mic wasn't working, his camera froze, so I finished 3 things. I'll start with the least, the one that took the least effort was Abzu. It was like 2 45-minute sessions, and I started it late. I've been playing all day, and I was tired as hell. And I literally almost fell asleep during the credits because the music's nice and soothing. But it's just a weird. For me. I was just starting to get into it and it was over. I don't understand what they're going for, but I mean it's beautiful and all the whales and stuff and the sharks was really cool and it makes me want to Endless Ocean. But I guess I don't really understand what they were going for with that game, but it was soothing though. I mean, it was a nice, pleasant playthrough. Retro, are you here?
Tell me you fuckers can hear me.
We can hear you.
Oh my god, I took like 20 minutes just to reboot my fucking computer.
Don't get mad at Ilka.
Yeah, why mad?
Our fault. Shit.
All right, so just Retro, did you start or beat any new games or beat any games for the first time in the last week?
Don't ask him. He's too angry right now.
That's why I was excited. Like, man, I want to be in this fucking segment for once. I started a new game and shit. Like, I actually started Horizon Zero Dawn last
So did Clank.
Tuesday, whenever it was free.
So did I. Yeah.
Everybody on that Horizon.
Yeah,
right
and like because it was free. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna get a free game, so I started playing it, and I instantly had that feeling again from, okay, I understood why I couldn't play this at the same time as Breath of the Wild, but now it's been so long ago that I can completely separate myself from that finally. And first of all, like, the characters look great. I love how the world looks and everything. It looks better than I remembered somehow. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It does that kind of annoying thing I hate in tutorial where you only allowed to use the button once the tutorial tells you what the button does. I don't like it when tutorials do that. And I kind of like the aspect in the beginning, she finds this thing that allows her to like, oh, wait, I can kind of communicate with the tech and shit, You see that in like the opening scenes and shit. But it's so useless. Like, she has this device and it allows you to like track the creatures, and I'm like, okay, but like they go from left to right. Why that's like in Ocarina of Time, you have to look out for the guards. Like, I don't need to see an arrow where they're walking. You wait 1 second and you see where they're walking. It's so useless and shit. Then it's like, oh, but you can also track the weak points. But I'm sitting there to myself, maybe the other weak point is the giant gas tank on its back. Like, you don't need the device for that. So far, the device is
Yeah, I didn't use that device
Wait.
much after the
like
beginning.
the only cool thing the device does, which I really like, which is, it's for the story where like she's as a kid laying in bed and you see her swipe all the shit and the guy's looking at her like, what the fuck are you doing? Because he can't see what she's doing. She's going through like the menus of the device. I love that. It's so cool. But gameplay wise, it's the most useless fucking thing ever. There's no reason for this to be in the game for the gameplay.
Well, to be fair, it sounds like I got a little bit further than you. I can't believe I'm defending Horizon.
Well, there's
here.
parts in where you're in the.
But there will be enemies where the weak point isn't as visible and obvious as some of the gazelle-like creatures who have got these giant golden tanks on their back.
And it helps you with some puzzles and stuff when you're in the cauldrons later on, when you're in the things that have all the tech that it can communicate with. So, but
either way, I love the story. I'm really excited to play more of it now and shit. Like even the stupid ledge thing, that is why I couldn't play it in the beginning. It doesn't bother me as much. But like I said, the first mission where you have like this guy laying there, you have to get to the guys to teach you how to use the thing, And I hit the machine and all these arrows appear. And I'm like, this is so convoluted. So I literally turned the machine off and then just walked through all the people, Like you don't need those fucking arrows and shit. But like story-wise, I can't wait to see more.
It's one of my favorite post-apocalyptic like concepts, the way that they handle what happened and how the world is the way it is. I actually really like that part. That's the part
that surprised me because that was one of people's biggest gripes was the story. I'm like, I thought it was a pretty good story.
I thought it was really a cool idea. Some of
that definitely grabbed me from the beginning.
I'd say some of the side quest storylines are pretty lackluster, But so yeah, that it.
That's it.
Okay, so yeah, I finished Abzu, but then I finished the Myths of the Eastern Realm DLC for Immortals, and if I had to give it a grade, unfortunately, I'd probably give it like a B- or C+ range. It started off promising, but the story, it's like they ran out of ideas and it just fizzled out. The end boss was just like, you still don't know who the hell it was or what their motivation was. It was kind of, a little underwhelming as far as the ending. I enjoyed it though. For $15, I wouldn't highly recommend it, but if you love the game, I would say it's worth getting. And then the other game I finished was Final Fantasy VII Remake, which finished strong, and I think that's, like I told you guys, I think that's why a lot of people, were rating it higher or got Game of the Year contention, because it did finish really strong. A lot of boss battles, and that's the highlight of the game for me, was the battle system. It's like, when I'm like trying to just do side quest and navigate that slow padding ass navigation, the game was brought pretty low for me. But then when I'm doing battles and it's like these intense 30 minutes and I'm just constantly having to heal versus do I heal or do I attack, and it's like, it basically, like I told you guys before, it becomes, you use the R2 button and it pauses everything, and then you go through your 3 party members, and if their ATB gauges are full, you can do something like items, a magic attack, or just one of your stronger abilities. So I'm constantly monitoring all characters, switching characters. I'm dodging attacks, plus selecting their spells that they're doing and stuff, and trying to combo. Like I'm attacking whatever this, if there's 3 of the same enemy, it'll be A, B, and C. Like I'm attacking A with physical attacks. Oh, Tifa's got her magic full, so I'll quickly hit it with 2 lightning attacks, try to get it staggered. And I was just like, I really got sucked into that. I wouldn't say I like it as much as Xenoblade Chronicles X or 2, but I'd say it's my second favorite battle system in a role-playing game. So that was definitely the highlight. Like, I wish they would do more like that, and maybe, I don't know if Final Fantasy 15's like that or not.
Sounds kind of similar to me.
I have to rewatch.
Not like 100, not 100%, but it's similar.
So, and then the other part I really enjoyed was the story. I don't know the original story. For me, I'm just going off my experience with no previous experience. I was really captivated by the everything going on. There's cheesy villains that are just like laughing for no reason villains. The stereotypical villain bullshit. But as far as like the main cast, Cloud's kind of arc, I was actually very interested in it, in the whole, like, they're basically destroying the earth by using mining the Mako to power the cities and stuff, and it's, it hit pretty well with me. So I really like the story and I like the combat. So I would probably say for me it's like a solid B game. I'm actually looking forward. Hopefully the next game is. It felt like a pretty full game to me. I know there's a lot of filler in there from the original game, but as long as the next game is like a meaty game and they're not like really milking this thing out, I would consider getting it, like actually buying it. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
You know what it sounds like? You're trying to get a solid story with some fun combat. It sounds like you need some Yakuza like a dragon.
Yeah.
That's the story is, again, one, it's great, and the side quest you want to talk about. I know you said you wanted to do the side quest in Final Fantasy VII Remake. The side quests in this game are hilarious, and they're some of the best parts of the game. It's so fucking funny.
If it's anything like Yakuza Zeros, I already know what kind of lifestyle you living over there, Robert.
I'm sure Terrell, you're gonna love it since you're a turn-based guy. That shit's good. It's fantastic. But it's so fast-paced that it isn't quite like it's turn-based, but it feels like almost a mixed kind of. Where it's like, it's very fast paced.
Yeah, I looked at some footage for it and I was like, some of these specials are flat out ridiculous.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's so good. It's so good. If you want, that's what I've been putting on Twitter all the time. Just posting screenshots of
when you're dark skinned, you got that ash. Ain't nothing better than that cocoa butter, boy.
That's bullshit. You get Lubriderm. Fuck you, sir.
So, yeah, so I was surprised. I didn't expect to even want to finish playing it. Final Fantasy VII, and I would have never bought it, but
But now you might buy part 2 then,
unless they like take another 5% of the game and try to stretch it out. Like it feels to me like, I don't know what the original story is, but they set it up the way it ends in a like, yeah, I wanna see what happens next.
What about that Yuffie DLC?
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
No,
that's only for PS5.
That means it's shit, right?
What?
PS5.
You gave the that DLC for Phoenix Rising. You gave it a
B-,
right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that shit, huh, Retro?
That's trash. No. But speaking of
stupid grading systems.
Yeah. Speaking of Immortals, though, I do want to spring a topic on you guys. And so basically, I know a couple people here already know your answer, but there's a couple that I have no idea. So for me, a game that just absolutely clicked with me and I just can't stop playing it is Immortals. Like, I'm at 93 hours in the main quest on my second playthrough, and Damn. I'm going for 100%. I have just a few more things to do to get all the main armor gear. Then there's still some helmets and stuff to find. I'm just gonna do open every epic chest has gear. All chests marked epic chests have gear. Guarded chests have gear, and then the vaults all have at least one piece of gear. So I'm just gonna do all the vaults, and then open all the chests, and then beat it again. And it's just like, I can't get enough of the game. So the question is, for you guys, what's the game that just clicked? And I'm saying 2017 to now, like not long, because I know Breath of the Wild for a couple of us would have been that game. So since Breath of the Wild basically to now, what has been the game you've played that's just clicked with you and you can just keep playing it and it's never getting old? I know a couple of your answers, but why don't you just we'll start with Terrell. I definitely know yours, but
yeah, Xenoblade 2. That's it.
Why'd you make an X then? Oh, for Xenoblade.
Yeah,
I was thinking X. I was thinking Xenoblade Chronicles X. Sorry.
I can't do an X.
Comes out finally.
Okay?
Yeah.
Comes out.
X gonna give it to you.
Exposed.
About to say that was a game that I wasn't sure I was gonna like, because the only other Xenoblade game I played was X, and I enjoyed X, but I would say Juice was more integrated into that world than I was, like. And then 2 came out, and 2 was like, well, y'all already know 2 was up my alley just with the anime shit. That's part 1. And then for some reason, I just couldn't stop playing it. And then I looked down and looked at my playtime and went, oh, 500 hours. I've done like 3 new game pluses on that bitch. And I want to do a third one. I'm just in the mood for it. It's just one of those games I don't get tired of playing.
And would you recommend somebody, let's say they just don't want to like beat the game because they're enjoying being in that world? Is there a benefit to getting farther in the game but then grinding? Like,
I mean, Xenoblade honestly is one of those games that, I mean, considering the way when you beat Xenoblade 2, it does that whole, once you beat the game, that like certain things changes, like you got like a star in your fucking save file, but like it when you boot up the game, you just load up to the save point right before the final boss fight anyway. So like there's nothing to gain realistically from holding back and grinding. The only reason why you do it is if you just really are interested in getting certain blades and then seeing their stories and stuff.
yeah, that's true. But you can do that. You can beat the game and then, like you said, go back to that save file and then do like I did. I put another, I want to say 40 to 60 hours just grinding and doing that stuff with the blades.
For me, it was more of just like trying to like also just realize how many nooks and crannies were in the Xenoblade 2. Like my original thing was, oh, I want to see every blade's like side story since they all got cutscenes and everything. And I went, well, fuck it. Now I have all the blades. Let me see if any of these areas have extra points in them. And Torgoth was more expensive than I thought there is. There's like this cool hidden tree area that you go down to, but I only found it out because one of the blade quests make you go down there. I think it's either agates or crossets that make you go through the tree.
Listen,
you find all these
naming blades like off the top of his head.
That's the few games I can name almost every area.
Cosmos is the only blade I could name other than the main. Like,
oh, I can name the majority. I'm not going to go through that. I'm not.
I don't even know.
Primordia.
Yep, that was one. I can't even name Morags, honestly. I don't.
Oh, Bridget,
yeah.
That was Bridget? Dang, I didn't remember.
Yeah, Bridget. That was one of the easier ones. Just the name was.
But
I'll let the rest of y'all go.
So Retro what's your game that just clicked with and you can't stop playing?
It's 2 different things for me, if you say it like that. But like I have to like be real in this answer. When we're talking about a game that just clicked, my answer was actually going to be exactly the same: Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because just like Terrell, I played Xenoblade Chronicles X, and you guys, I won't go into it, but you guys remember I hated so much in that game, so much it just didn't click for me in that game. From the world to the combat and shit. And when we saw the original trailer, of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you had like, it gave me those Tales of vibes that I love, where you have like the anime shit. That's just a big part of what it is. That anime world with these characters you can get attached to and shit. So I already like that. So when I saw the original trailer, I pre-ordered the massive collector's edition, and I was like, I'm going all in this game. And then the first time I got into combat, it's like it just hit me. I'm like, this is what I wanted, this is what I liked. And like I'm still playing it, I'm still playing it now, and I'm still enjoying it. And I can name a bunch of blades actually. And it just clicked with me for all those reasons, because the combat, like I said, me personally, the combat reminded me a lot of some things in Button Kaitos and shit. The way the world is, I got a lot of those feelings from that game. And like, I know what you were thinking. You expected me to, for example, say Days Gone, because I can't stop playing it. But like, Days Gone is something I didn't need for me to click, because that's just the type of game that I know I was gonna like. And with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I needed that moment, that like, yeah, this is fucking it. What X just never gave me personally.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking you go with Days Gone for sure.
Yeah, I know
you
Days
finished
Gone.
it. You played through it twice.
Xenoblade Chronicles
Oh, I'm playing it to it like a second time now. Days Gone. I'm still playing it. I can't stop playing and shit. I've done all the challenges. I platinumed it and shit. But I didn't need Days Gone to click the way I needed Xenoblade to, because I knew I was gonna love Days Gone. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a fucking gamble because of how disappointed I was in X. Like, I'm still trying to boot up X here and there and force my way through that. And I don't want my games to make me do that shit.
Fuck you, T. Fuck you, T.
Damn.
All right, T. What's your game since Breath of the Wild that's you just can't get enough of, and
Who, me?
Yeah, you're gonna pull it out of the hat.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was like, where the hell's the boy at?
I actually don't have it with me here. Believe it or
Oh
not.
shit!
What?
You said since out because I was gonna say Horizon for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, you played that after
What is
Breath of the Wild.
That same year. That same year, right?
Yeah, but you played it
was
after.
Before, actually, it's a little before. It's one of the few games
Oh yeah, like
that
a
I
month
actually New
before.
Game Plussed, and I still enjoy the combat and stuff. And but I would probably say, because I am still playing it and there's new things going on and I'm enjoying it, it's probably Starlink.
Yeah, that's another
like I can the more I play that game, the more I want that team to just make a goddamn Star Fox game. Like, god damn it. They clearly want to make a Star Fox game, and Nintendo clearly doesn't know what to do with Star Fox. So let these guys.
Nintendo doesn't know what to do with anything.
Well, that's yeah. But at least they were still making Star Fox up until recently. So, yeah. I mean, I still have tons of fun with that game. I mean, at this point right now, it's getting a little annoying because I can't, like I told you about the glitch, I can't 100% it. Even though I've done everything, just because the stupid glitch won't let me clear 100% on the game. But the primes will keep showing up, so that gets a little monotonous.
Yeah, I didn't
But
like that.
I'm getting to know it because it's like, oh, I cleared all this stuff out, and then all of a sudden a prime pops up out of nowhere, and it's just like, that's annoying. But there is stuff on the Red Moon that I'm still going through. So I mean, that's probably the most recent game other than Horizon.
All right, what about you, Clocked It? I have a feeling I might know what you're gonna say, but
Oh God. I think there's only what do you say, Hollow Knight?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think in terms of the game that clicked, I don't think any other game has come close really. Fucking hell, like before my Switch messed up, I think my clock time was probably about 170 hours on the game.
Really?
About 5 completions of it, to the point where you can only have 4 save files, and I had to delete one of them begrudgingly in order to start another playthrough. But I'm not gonna lie, that there's something about the Hollow Knight world that actually helped me during
What the
lockdown,
fuck? I hate you,
during COVID and stuff, man. Because the world is like, it's so somber and so melancholy,
Mm-hmm.
and you have this kingdom that has basically fallen to ruin, but then it's like there's like these dregs of hope in there and salvation. But then just the atmosphere of the world itself it just drags you in, and at times obviously it can feel threatening, but then at other times it's just so peaceful and tranquil, and I think Hollow Knight is just staggering. So yeah,
And
easy for me.
is Silk Song the Elder Ring of indie games at this point, you think?
Elden Ring of what you mean?
Isn't that the game that everybody that never gets shown
people-
since it was
yeah,
revealed?
yeah.
You know, Silk
Oh,
Song has
right.
had gameplay, but
Well, I mean, to be fair, Silk Song has had a good chunk of gameplay and has been seen at game
Mhm.
shows and been
yeah, that's
played
where
there,
it's
so,
different.
It's we know what it looks like. We know what it's gonna play like.
I have a feeling
So
they'd come up with something they wanted to add, because all hands-on reports are saying the game feels polished and like a finished game. I mean, it wasn't lengthwise, they couldn't judge it, but they said it just felt like a complete finished product at the game shows, and then it just
yeah,
disappeared.
I can't imagine them being in development difficulty.
I think they
think
probably
they-
they probably wanted to expand it or something.
Well, that's kind of what happened to Silk Song. It was meant to be just DLC, as Retro knows, but then it just evolved into its own, big game, and they could be literally turning it, into something beyond that even Hollow Knight was.
I'm convinced with Silk Song that it's taking longer because the devs were like, let's just push this fucking thing as far as we can. I'm convinced they don't have any problems with it. Like, they're just making so much more out of it still. And that's why I'm like, I'm not worried about this shit. It's going to come and it's going to be like god tier sequel level.
Have they given any updates?
No, nothing.
No, we haven't even heard
I
from
don't
it in
think-
like 2 years, I think.
It's gone dead silent. Dead silent.
Yeah, so hopefully it's just they're adding a bunch of stuff and making this a huge game, and there isn't, because wasn't it a team, a couple guys kind of started making the game, the first Hollow Knight, and then obviously they had help with like the music and stuff. But I mean, Hollow Knight's been pretty successful, I'm guessing. I know on the Switch it was in the top
It's been
for a long
hugely
time,
successful.
and you
I
know,
mean,
they might
let's
have
not
said-
forget when Hollow Knight launched, because like a lot of you guys, you came into it later when it launched on the Switch and stuff, and it's a beefy fucking game. When Hollow Knight originally launched, it had half of that stuff. It didn't have the Grim Troop stuff, the Colosseum stuff, a lot of the Dream stuff. There's some basic elements that now are kind of normal were not in the game, and I just think that they're adding just as much shit in Silksong now, but like trying to like have it in there at launch, like what they did when Hollow Knight came to Switch.
And just think about making a Mario Maker level. Like, I've, you know, I like think I'm done, and then I'll like, well, let me just play through it start to finish. I'm like, oh no, I don't like that, and then I'll like instantly go back and change it. Imagine like a full game where that happens. You know, like there was times where I think I was gonna upload a level of Mario Maker, the first game specific, more than the second because I played it way more, and then I just. I'm going to play it, you know, to prove I can beat it, to upload it. And then I notice something. And then next thing I know, like 4 or 5 days later, and I'm still tweaking the level that I was going to upload. And it's like on a whole game scale, it's got to be tough, you know? And then he's never uploaded.
Brad,
I think
tell me
Silksong's
about that
gonna hit.
struggle. Tell me.
I think Silksong's going to hit different as well in terms of, you know, atmosphere and everything, because from what we've seen, the world is Silksong is much more alive, much more alive than what Hollow Nest. Hollow Nest was pretty much just this dead abandoned city.
And she's like a confident, more personality character too. Versus
yeah, and she says she speaks as well and everything.
And the story is also going to be, I think, which I'm afraid. This is one thing I'm afraid of because of the story. I'm thinking that is going to be a little bit less melancholic, a little bit less sad.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get to Robert. What's your game?
Singular game.
Yep. Everyone else has named one game. Well, kind of. Somebody named two.
Because I had like 3 in my mind.
No, one game. You can only have one game that you can't stop playing. That you've been hooked.
It's tough because obviously I'd want to just say Animal Crossing, but that's not one of them. That's not one of them because it's got to be something that I feel like.
Yes, that's. I didn't make the stipulation, but something realize. Like you didn't. I was also thinking about something
right?
you weren't expecting.
I wasn't even looking forward to necessarily. Because it's tough. Because
Robert could never just name something.
I want to say Yakuza Like a Dragon. I really do. Honestly, I really want to say it just for the simple fact that I wasn't even too sure if I was going to pick the game up. I even had it on my list, and I had Yakuza Like a Dragon ? Like it was like everything else like I listed, and Yakuza is kind of like. I do want to get into the series. It looks like it's up my alley, but I'm like, I don't really know, man. It's like, dude, do I really pick it up? If that's another like 50-hour game, damn, I don't know. Should I really do it? And I played it, and just the very first fucking time I played it, I was like, oh, this is good. And obviously, I was playing through Assassin's Creed and Sakura, and I had to put them for the side while I'm playing Yakuza. Right now, I'm like 45 hours in or some shit like that, and I still want to do a bunch of other side quests. I still got like 3 chapters left to go, but I still want to. I don't want to finish the game. I still want to play like the side quests and stuff. And so, and the average time to beat the game is like 45 hours. So that means I'm already going above the average because I'm like, I'm going beyond what.
See, now you're coming into my world where you literally just said I don't want to finish the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I know. But obviously, it depends on the game for everything. But this is that game where I'm just like, yeah, I'm hooked, man. I absolutely love these side quests. I love Ichiban Kasuga. He's hilarious, and all of them characters, and it's one of those games where I'm totally hooked.
So, just completely random question because I saw, I think it was Neo GameSpark was made. I watched a video of his, and and he was talking about his PS5's like he's had crashes out of rest mode and stuff. Have you had any issues with that game on your PS5?
Oh, for he had
Yakuza,
crashes on-
not for Yakuza, but just in general. Sounds like he's had some system crashes.
No, not that I remember. Not
Yeah,
yet.
I had one.
I've only put my thing in rest mode a few times though. It's not like I've been putting in rest mode too
Yeah.
often.
I was just curious because I didn't realize you had a PS5. I didn't know it was a PS5 game, to be honest.
Okay, yeah.
It's on.
Yeah.
Is it on another last
It's
gen?
on PS4, Xbox One also.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can get it on
Alright.
PC.
Just remember I was telling you that it's now it's like 1440p 60 or 4K 30. You know, it's essentially that's what that is, and it's a great game. And then I'm gonna run Hades, Borderlands 3. Just
And one of the things I wasn't gonna make it a stipulation, but for me personally, like my game, like Immortals, like I wouldn't expect like it to hit with everybody, you know. Like for me, I feel like it was like a culmination of things, the timing of it, and just it just worked for me. And I wouldn't be like shocked if someone's like, yeah, it's a good game, it's decent, like I wouldn't be mad at somebody if they're like, oh, this game's not that great, like I don't expect everyone to love it. So that's what's even more surprising about it. I didn't expect to love it so much, and then and I after playing it, I could see if it's not up somebody's alley or anything like that. So it's just a little extra wrinkle to it, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know. You guys want to talk about the state of play at all? They had 2 quick games and then Ratchet.
It's cool that they put Among Us on PlayStation 4, although I feel like that one's kind of late considering
That's
that
way
game.
late. I mean, I'm curious. I don't watch streamers, but I'm wondering if that's
Among
still
Us-
popular.
Among Us still is played.
streaming world. Not with the high. You had the biggest streamers.
Yeah, it's not maxed out.
do
But
that
people
anymore.
still play it, but it's not.
Yeah, I
like-
mean, if you're talking about the everyday player, it still gets a ton of people.
Is it?
Yeah, it still gets played. It's just not.
Yeah, don't tip Rob over the edge about stuff like this when you don't hear the game being thought as popular anymore. It doesn't mean no one's playing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious because to me,
Come on,
like
Joe.
I was done after the first time playing, and I'm wondering what kind of shelf life that gameplay has, because how many times can you just do the same thing and make up the same?
Oh man,
Yeah,
how many times can you play? How many times can you play Bomberman or something? It's
Yeah, but
How many
to me, it's
times can you do the same thing? This is the whole essence
no,
of the discussion we're gonna
not the
get in
game.
later.
Talking to like how many times can you talk to actual people and try to trick them before you hear everything? Like it's a different type of game than just playing a game you like over and over.
I could murder Terrell and blame Juice every single day, man. That's a lot of
He
fun, but you need to
literally
grow.
would do that. You were like Retro's better than that. He's not. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, just like if you played that game, like let's say like somebody played that, like I play Rocket League, I got like 1,300 hours. Like I can't imagine, like you wouldn't just have heard every lie, every angle at that point. It just feels like it'd be a different.
Humans are really good at adapting. We will find new ways to lie about the same old shit.
I mean, otherwise, the criminal court system would be a breeze. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've done this too many times. Get out of here.
It's like, hey man, murders have been arrested for years. I mean, I didn't kill him though. I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me. All right, you could ask him over. You could ask that dead guy. Oh, I mean, you never mind. You could ask the other guy over here. That wasn't me.
So anybody play that Subnautica game? Is that one of the free games?
I've played it.
Was that one of the free games on PlayStation?
Yeah, that's why I started it too. Yeah.
I started it when it was first came free on the Epic Game Store. That's why I played it.
Is that a VR game too?
That was a while back.
I was curious if that had VR. It seems like it should. If it doesn't,
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No. Yeah, so it was just kind of a basically Sony was like, we're gonna make a Ratchet and Clank video, but let's just throw these 2 other announcements in front of it. Like, it was almost like they could have just done just the Ratchet and Clank probably.
Yeah.
What was the Subnautica?
Below Zero or something.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
like
that's
a
the expansion of it essentially.
Wait, but is there like Ratchet and Clank stuff in it?
No,
Or
it's
something?
just
No,
two.
no,
They
no,
just
actually-
announced Among
No,
Us
no.
and the Subnautica game sequel.
Among Us
Actually,
at least has
there's
Ratchet
Ratchet
and
and
Clank.
Clank stuff in Among
Yeah,
Us.
that has Ratchet and Clank, but
That's what I thought maybe Subnautica.
no,
no,
it's
wait,
just
wait.
basically like
I know what Rob's saying.
I get it
was
now.
It was two random indie games announced before the main event.
and one
Among
had
Us only makes sense because that's a relatively big title, but I didn't. Subnautica, I'm like, oh, okay.
and they had the
cool.
Ratchet and Clank characters in
Among Us.
so it was kind of made a little more sense.
That one at least
Yeah.
correlated. with,
Subnautica
like,
just was out of nowhere. This was
it was
just
like, all right.
first.
By the way,
Yeah.
Subnautica, guys.
Maybe
all
they were
right,
just
yeah.
trying. Maybe they just threw them a bone. Figure a bunch of people
I mean,
would
they
watch
came
it.
first, so it's fine.
But
Well, the Subnautica thing, you had it for free on PlayStation 4, so maybe they figured if a lot of people like got to it, you know, it was a reason for some people to like, yeah, let me try this expansion shit. Oh, I need a PS5. Okay.
That-
you know.
That's true.
and it was PS4 and PS5 for that. Wasn't. But then Ratchet and Clank, we've seen it, but they definitely showed quite a bit. I know Robert, you said you weren't gonna watch it.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. I watched
Watched it.
it
watched
twice, and then I watched two other people react to watching it. So I've seen it 4 times.
Jesus Christ.
You completed the game.
Yeah. But it is definitely like Clock that you said, like visual showcase. It's definitely the first like true visual showcase game for this generation. That's only 7 months old at this point. And it's hard to deny. Like I went back and played Ratchet and Clank 2016. Yeah, it looks good, but
Oh, come on. That shit looks insane. It looks
good. But when you look at the two together, you can tell it's not. It's pretty obviously a generational leap in what's going on. Not just resolution, everything's the same, but just everything going on. So it's just like it's almost
like
too
the
much.
amount of stuff on screen, like it's
Yeah, just everything happening, and the density and everything. The lighting definitely is a big difference too. But I'm like you guys, I said in my video, like I replayed it just to kind of refresh my impressions. Say, did I give it a fair chance? And it's a little bit better than I remembered the 2016, but it's still about what I thought it was. It's not a bad game. It's just it doesn't do anything particularly well for me. So
Well, the problem is it's based off the level design of a 2002 game.
Yeah.
yeah, and it
Yeah,
has
like-
very, like I point out, like very basic. You can jump
But-
left to right.
Man, don't wait.
Wait. Like,
Here we go.
I knew you were gonna wait. Let me clarify this because I want to get into it a little bit.
Okay, good.
I want to get into it a little bit because I feel like
next word.
looking at Ratchet and Clank, was it Rift Apart? Looking at that as having the same effect that Final Fantasy VII Remake had on me, where my interest isn't to go play the new game or even the remake, but I want to go play the original game. Especially because from what I've heard from older fans, people don't even like the remake compared to the original game. So for me personally, if I'm going to play any Ratchet and Clank in the coming months, it's going to be the original game. Probably isn't there a PS3 collection of the first few
Yeah,
I
games?
think so.
Yeah, it is.
That'll
Free
probably,
connection.
that'll probably be what
Now that you say that, I am curious to try, because all I heard, not growing up, but at work, this dude, he was a huge Ratchet and Clank fan. It's all he ever talked about. Oh yeah, I just beat the new Ratchet and Clank. It was his favorite game series. So my first was the 2016 remake. And
Dude,
I'd be curious to go back.
I'll say this. I just went and looked at a couple of cutscenes. Ratchet is a completely different character in between the remake and the fucking even the movie, the remake, and the fucking first game. He's a completely different character.
Yeah, he's
I mean, he doesn't talk like this anymore. Hey guys.
But he has more of he has more of an edge to him.
Yeah,
in
he
the
was-
original.
Facial expression.
Like I said,
PS3. They got very they changed the design is kind of what they stuck with. That PS3 and up is what they started. Really.
Yeah, I could tell they were changing it as the games went along. I noticed.
but
Just
Yeah.
go ahead.
either way, Rift Apart, looks visually amazing, and it's a nice showcase for a game that's 2 months out, and I'm guessing that's pretty much June. Oh yeah, it is May. All right, Jesus Christ,
Yo, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I was saying, it
a
just-
month out. Yeah, so it's a month and a week, or a little less than that.
doesn't
It's
Resident
like E3.
Consistently good puns for sequels names too.
Oh, what for Ratchet
Up
and
your
Clank?
arsenal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you always know,
Yeah, because I feel like
Udi.
I like without previous experience, I felt like the Ratchet character was just kind of he's just kind of like he didn't really
Well,
have
he's
much personality in the remake, you know. So if he had more, if he was more edge to him in the original games, that would be something I would actually wish they'd bring back. Then.
Oh, it's completely different.
Does he have like Jack 3 edge? Like Jack
No,
2?
no. I mean, like, I'll put it this way.
Fuck
Like,
those games, man.
I'll put it this way. I'll give you an example. Juice. He's very much. They try to make him like a nerd in the original game. Like, I mean, in the remake. The original Ratchet would make fun of his modern representation. Like
Yeah.
that's like they're almost two different characters.
Well, also they had the game. They did have his edge part. They had Ratchet deadlocked on the PS2, and it's rated T for teen, you know.
Mhm.
And he's like this on the box like.
Yeah.
That's the
Sony, for whatever reason,
That's the only
That
older.
happens so
they
much.
just they have this complex about their cartoony games. It's like, oh, it has to be
Yeah,
edgy.
exactly. T.
And it's
Exactly,
just that
T.
annoyed the shit out of me.
Which
They
the
definitely
the
did
irony-
that.
That's
irony
exactly
is-
what happened to Jack and Daxter.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Exactly
Yeah, that's
right.
what happened to
Jack
Jack
and
and Daxter.
Daxter
It's like
is
this
really
sucks.
drastic. The irony, I guess, the irony is that the reason why Ratchet is the way he is now. I looked it up in a developer interview. They got a lot of backlash off the first game because they thought he was too edgy. They thought Ratchet was too edgy.
I just wish
so
he
they-
had a little more like
From the first
emotion.
game?
Yeah, that was the backlash.
But-
He's a little bit too edgy for us.
I don't
I
remember that.
don't, like define edgy.
Yeah.
Because I am
Just
the
like
first,
a
I
Peter
have-
Parker,
because
like
he-
Spider-Man, like quippy, like
No,
that's how I like making
No, he's
fun
not
of
really
people.
quippy.
it's not really quippy. It's more of like
That's what I was
He's-
thinking.
like his base character motives is. Yeah, he's more snarky. He's a little bit more selfish.
Well, if anything, that's what Daxter is like, because you had in Jack and Daxter, Jack was a mute in the first game. He didn't say shit. So you had Daxter, who was almost like the Kazooie comic relief, you know, the wise
Yeah, it was like Kazooie.
comic relief
basically.
and stuff like that, you know. But that all changed. You know, fucking hell.
I think that
Well,
whole
yeah.
edge thing came from Sonic. You know, oh, we gotta.
Yeah.
go.
Well,
It didn't come from Sonic from that generation. Fuck me.
No,
Yeah, but yeah, Sonic took it
no,
far. They
no.
ruined it.
It came from early Sonic.
There was-
His
I
edge
started.
was he just wasn't like Sonic's edge was literally like, oh, I'm not gonna just run and save the princess.
It was.
Like if that happens to happen while I'm doing shit, cool.
Right.
That's not my aim. That was his edge.
Right.
And then
His edge was based on I'm not gonna be Mario, but I want
Mhm.
that Mario money though.
yeah,
Mario money.
that's exactly it. Exactly.
Retro, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say that because I have a bunch of the other Ratchet games, but the remake is the first one I actually played. You know, because I got the PS4 back then, and I was like, you know, let me just like pop this shit in and I'll play it and stuff. So that was my first experience with it, and I necessarily didn't like him as a character in that game because to me he just felt like, you know, like a child following a hero. The cool part for me about the story was everything that wasn't him really. But I just really enjoyed the world and the gameplay. You know, because you keep saying, like, oh, you just jump left and right, but that was the fun for me. I like flipping left and right, shooting all these enemies, switching weapons, having like explosions here, disco balls over there, jump to the left, you know, doing bang and shit. Like that was fun for me, and like I like the world. Like I thought, like you have like these levels in space with the lighting and the planets and shit and the asteroids and stuff. You have this flying level that, yeah, I totally agree. I don't like it when games have these like levels that aren't the main game, but then they're really boring, like with the flying and shit. But like it looked incredible. Like the world was alive, all these spaceships and shit. So I had a lot of fun with that game. So when I watched the new footage, I'm like, I'm getting all of that shit times 10. You know, you got like that furry fan service in there and shit. You know, like fucking the
How
main
dare
guy
you.
over a bit and stuff.
I
And
knew
like,
it. I knew it.
I like
No.
like the levels and shit. Like when you see like I saw it, and I was like, damn, like they took it to a whole new level. Like you got this like fifth element shit mixed with like this
I was just
Borderlands
about to
type
say
of world
Fifth
and shit, and
Yeah.
it just looks incredible. And then you see like him walking in that like sci-fi world with the flying shit. And this is gonna sound really dumb because it's not that, But I saw, oh, you can see like all this shit looks pretty cool, and then like he jumped forward and like, oh wait, you're still in the game world and shit, and he's jumping in this level. It's like you don't know how far you can go and stuff. It looked giant, and they still add those weird sections in there where you like on the weirdest thing, the creature, whatever, the scooter like racing and shit. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that whole rift thing where you go into the dimensions, whether it's as you're walking and you're pulling yourself into it or in the racing, like I mean, visually, that shit is like crack, man. It just works. It shit looks so good when it switches it, and like, though you're in a whole new world and shit. Where the guy explained it, like, oh, like you're all of a sudden in a whole new area, but like it loads the whole world. I was thinking, like, yeah, but like, what's the point of loading the entire world if you're just in a small section? So it's wait and see how that's gonna play out. But I don't have a PS5, but I'm for the first time I'm thinking like, damn, that shit sure looks good, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know how constrained they were to like make the remake. Like, I know some levels were almost like spot on, except obviously visually way, you know, more going on, but still the level layout and everything was very similar. I don't know if the whole game was like that, but like one level in particular, I watched a breakdown. I don't know if it was Digital Foundry or something. They showed the original level, and then, you know, all the addition. It was the same exact like size and areas you went to. So I don't know if the game, I wouldn't say being held back, but they were sticking closer to the original design. So I'm hopeful that this will be a little more, you know, my cup of tea with the like I said, the dodge mechanic they added to the to left and right, forward and back with Ratchet could spruce up the combat for me personally a little bit more. So I'm kind of in the realm where, yeah, I gave them well, I bought the game for 20. I think it only was 40 when it came out. You know, I gave them that chance. Wasn't blown away. I didn't hate it, but I'll try this one. Now if this one's in the kind of the same for me, then yeah, I'll be done with that franchise. But I feel like I'm enticed obviously by the visuals and all that, but also the gameplay does look like they've added at least one little wrinkle that looks interesting, and this will be kind of they can either win me over for good or lose me for good with this game. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Like, I really hope you just, and obviously I want people to enjoy games. Like, I hope, you know, you try it and you really do fall in love with it. But watching your video, the playthrough you did where you tried the remake again, I just love hearing that inner struggle where you're trying to convince yourself you liked it more than you did. That was funny.
Well, I was enjoying the game, and then I got to a section that I was reminded of what I didn't like the hover race thing. It's just like, why is this even in the game? It's so basic. Like it took. I did each one try, like the bronze, silver, and gold. Like there's no.
It's okay to be in the game. They just obviously didn't make it engaging enough. You
and
know,
that's all the flying was. You know, it's like, so I'm optimistic, I guess. But like I said, if it, you know, if Rift Apart isn't much different as far as like the overall feel of the game, then yeah, I'll be done with the series probably for good. But
also, like, I do want to say, there's nothing wrong in wanting to be interested in a game just because you think it looks fucking gorgeous without knowing if you like the gameplay. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's literally the only thing that's drawing me back, and not to always do this, but like, it's true. That draws me back in Xenoblade Chronicles X. I want to keep playing it because it's fucking gorgeous. It's a gorgeous world, you know. I want to be in it. So, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Graphics hoes.
yeah.
Hoes.
And they were showing, you know, the 30 frames per second, obviously. So I'm be curious to see what the 60 frames per second version looks like. Because I mean, Spider-Man Miles Morales still looked pretty good, but it was noticeable in certain areas that you were missing out on some reflections and stuff. So we'll see.
Honestly, I think the Ratchet and Clank 2016, it looks insane.
Oh, it looks really good.
It looks almost movie quality. Like and then Rift Apart just goes that extra mile by adding the, I guess you could say, the density. I think it just, I think people underestimate how crazy.
Well, if you look, I just played it. I mean, on 4K HDR 68,
looks great.
Ratchet looks like, I wouldn't say like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze to Donkey Kong on Smash, but you can see a way like lesser detailed in the fur and everything, so it was like immediately noticeable.
I like it when platformers throw in like mixtures of genres and stuff. It's like in Jack and Daxter we were talking about. You jump on the little rocket and you're going like over lava and stuff like that. That's really cool.
Well, they
fun.
have that dragon.
Games,
They
no
showed that.
platform,
Yeah.
man.
They showed a
Or
little
they
dragon.
like
In
yeah,
the,
the dragon, or like in Rayman, you grab onto onto a loom, onto a lum, and you'd like be skiing through the swamp and stuff like that, just dodging everything.
I was going to say the skiing
in
in Sunshine Galaxy.
or even in Donkey Kong Country, you're in the minecart. It's just
Mhm.
as long as it plays well and it's fun, then fine, throw it
Yeah.
in there. It's just that's
Well,
more-
I mean, Ratchet and Clank, like the other Ratchet and Clank that I played was Tools of Destruction, and that one had the whole. They always had the they had also like different gadgets, like the I always call it the gyrosphere from Jurassic World. You're in the ball and you're like rolling around and stuff, and you have the wings and you're flying. Like they have some cool things, and I really enjoyed it. And I always fuck with variety when I mean obviously when it's good. And I always really enjoy the Ratchet and Clank variety personally.
which one was it? The PS3 version that introduced the rail grinding. They like went
I think
all in.
it must have been Tools of Destruction.
They
'cause
went
that's
all
what
in
I-
with
yeah,
that.
totally.
I don't think the remake has it, and they looks like it's in Rift Apart. But
Yeah, because Tools of
Sonic-
Destruction for
Sonic
sure had
wrote
a
that
lot of
curse
a lot
upon us.
of that.
Hey,
what game was I just playing that has
Sonic
that
2,
too?
baby.
I was just playing something where I had to jump to avoid stuff. Oh,
I
the
was- I was-
Octo expansion.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I was playing Sonic Colors yesterday of all fucking games.
really?
What's wrong
Yeah.
with Cubs? Cubs is a good game.
No,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
really
hate on it, but it just brought it back to just the rail grinding and
Oh,
stuff.
the rail
Oh,
grinding.
yeah.
Just,
Yeah,
just
that's-
hopping between and stuff.
I don't
It's
know.
like, so
I
many
like
games
rail
do it now.
grinding.
It's
you know, I
not
like
bad
the
in
rail grinding.
Tropical Freeze does a section where it's actually challenging and stuff, and I found it quite fun.
Oh, that's where the camera switches on the minecart, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you jump and stuff. Yeah.
But
I like the rail grinding.
yeah, so that's like, I mean, I would say that's the first like true showcase game as far as coming out. I mean, and really we haven't seen much else, even like trailers for any like current, next gen, which is current gen, games. So I think it's gonna do well. Halo 8. I expect that to look way better next time we see it.
We see some PC
Oh, boy.
screenshots of that recently. I'm sure we did.
Yeah,
That shit better look good.
but curious. We'll talk about in a second. I want to get to one other thing, but I do want to say I don't know if they didn't make a lot of copies, but Returnal's like sold out everywhere. I was looking just for the hell of it. So I think
No one's got
Ratchet,
nothing to play.
yeah,
that's
and I
why.
think Ratchet and Clank's gonna be pretty.
Got shit else to play, cuz.
I'm guessing they'll make at least one copy of Ratchet and Clank for every PS5 that's sold to be, to be available. But
Is it?
tell you what-
Let
I'll
me
tell you what makes me
let me
laugh
see if it's
about,
sold. I'm gonna check if it's sold out over here, yo. Return.
yeah, Best Buy
I
was.
tell you what makes me laugh about Returnal as well. It's the same developer that made Rosagun. I remember like how everyone was like hyping up Rosagun.
Resogun, you mean?
Oh,
Resogun's like
Oh,
for
we-
the
we
PS
came
for the
up with
PS4.
Yo, artificial effects, man.
They were making fun of it because that was the best game at launch.
That's all they
It
had.
was the best game at launch.
The only
Oh,
game.
man.
Can't see that.
What you mean?
Sold
out,
Warzone
I told
Shadowfall
you.
wasn't good.
Man, that's artificial.
Yeah, I mean they might only manufactured 100,000 copies. I mean, who knows? But...
Maybe who knows? I don't know why.
So,
why they do
but
that.
before we get into like the main topic, I do want to just share a story to those. I kind of mentioned on my Juice Opinions. I was sold my PS4 Pro. Not the person that was gonna buy it. That person bitched out on me. Just completely just. Yep. After work, 4 hours before he's getting out. Yeah, I'll. We can meet Walmart. Yep. Or I asked him, how about Walmart parking lot? And I never replied. And then nothing. I think he was just fucking with me because he was mad because I told him I had another offer, which I did. He wanted to give me $240. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw it up for $300, and I cleaned up the controller, which still looks very new. The system still looks almost brand new, and charging cable, HDMI, a good quality HDMI cord, and the power cable. $300. And on Thursday afternoon, I listed it, and then Saturday was just nothing. I had nothing. I was just about to drop the price because I'm like, yeah, 300's definitely. I mean, I paid $290 for it, so a year and a half later, I was like, I'll just drop it to $280. But before I did, somebody was like, hey, will you ship this to me? would you consider shipping it? And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather not. Where you live? And I didn't know it was a girl at the time, but I realized later. But she was like, Grand Rapids, and I'm like, that's 40 minutes away. Like you can't, like you can't come. I'll meet you halfway. Nope. I'll just keep looking. That's fine. I'm thinking a 20-minute drive. You can't meet me 20 minutes. So the next day I got nothing. So the next day I was just like sending her a message in the morning. I was like, well, what happens if I end up in Grand Rapids today? Is there anywhere you would meet me to buy it? And she's like, oh yeah. And funny enough, she said Walmart on a particular busy street. How's 1 o'clock? Sounds great. So I was like, she wanted me to ship it to now I'm driving 40 minutes, which isn't that big a deal. I think it was like $8 in gas. I calculated.
You simping, man.
And I still didn't know it was a girl. I had no idea it was a girl still. And I was like, but I'm like, I ain't gonna ship that shit. Why would I ship it for like? It's gonna cost $20-something to ship it.
$27, bro.
40 miles away. You'll have it on Monday. I said, let's just do it today. So I'm glad because I waited a couple hours and finally, So then I was like, well, let me check this profile, and then it turns out it's just it was a woman. I don't know. She probably wasn't using a real name because it was like a weird name. And I was like, well, I said. I'm started talking to her. Do you have a PS4? No, I have a Pro, but mine keeps crashing and locking up, and I just want to get a replacement. So I was like, all right, well, cool. So I drive there, and I'm just like, man, if this is somebody fucking with me again, I'm gonna be pissed. And about 5 minutes after our meetup time, her black vehicle pulls up, and she didn't even know the controller was part of the deal. She didn't even read the listing. I could have just sold the console itself. There's a controller. Awesome,
Shitty.
And
really
she was super excited. She handed me $300 cash, and I'm like, a year and a half later, I got technically because of the gas. I lost like $5. I lost like $5. I lost $5 on my year in a year and a half owning the Pro. So I figure that's pretty good. Like I've never.
Can't include the gas, yo. You're just driving. You're just taking,
Yeah, but either way,
you do calculate the gas. Resellers calculate the gas when they go out and buy.
Plus, I had to buy a charging cable when I bought the PS4. I had to buy a charging cable, which I forgot because he didn't have one, and I was selling mine with my PS4 Slim, so I had to spend $10 on a charging cable. So I actually paid $300 for it. But either way, it's like $5 difference. I was pretty happy about that. I can't think of another electronic device where I've owned and broke even or came close to breaking even on selling. So if anybody's got a Pro.
That's a legitimate expense. You count the gas because I watch a lot of reseller YouTubers.
Yeah, because you got to
and they calculate gas all the time. That's part of that's a business expense. So they got to calculate how much.
That's why
they're spending driving around looking for games and stuff too. So
that's why if I'm selling like something for $20, I'm like, you'll meet me, basically 2 miles from my house. I don't tell them it's 2 miles from my house, but I'm like, how about this place? Because I'm not gonna waste gas and time for a $20 item I'm selling. Like for $300
for sure.
To be done, and not have to deal with the first question I got. I listed it Thursday afternoon. The first question. Is this new? I just wanted to say, is it in the fucking box? Like, there's no box in the photo. So I replied, please read the listing. Check out the listing and read the description before you ask any more questions. And then that person never replied. I just want to say, are you fucking kidding me? PS4 Pro, great condition. Picture of it laying out on a table.
New? It's in great condition. It means it's new, right?
Yeah. I think it was a kid. I think it was a child. But either way, I was happy that. So if anybody's like, if you got a Pro in good condition, and you're debating whether you want to upgrade to a PS5, I mean the markets on the Pro is and the One X I believe is still pretty high right now. So
sell it to me, baby.
But yeah, so that was my story. I'm trying to think if the only other game console.
I want to be able to do this better.
Yeah, I watched a couple videos on like the improvements, and it wasn't very significant.
It's not significant
visually.
Right.
So otherwise, I actually thought of you as soon as I got the PS5. But the only other console I actually sold was the Wii. I sold it when I got the Wii U. and I transferred all my stuff. A girl at work was like, we just broke. And I was like, you know what? I was like, we use fully backwards compatibility. I wasn't thinking about the GameCube stuff. I was like, how about $80 for the system and one, Wii Remote and Nunchuck? And I think, I don't have no games or anything. So that was the only other system I actually ever sold.
I sold a few.
My Super NES I sold to my cousin, but I got it back. So anyway, so I mentioned Returnal earlier, and I don't really want to get into that game specifically as much. There's drama and stuff around it, but I feel like I got a confession. I told you guys. I want to just share it. Until a week ago, I didn't know Returnal was even considered a roguelike. I thought it was like a death loop, like a Groundhog's Day story. Like, I didn't know. But finding out what people are kind of complaining about, I realized I really don't know. I didn't know what a roguelike actually fully was, So when I saw a Switch Up review of it,
and that's okay. That's okay.
I think I don't know how niche it is or how popular it is, to be honest.
No, but it's okay. But it's funny that just the way you're explaining Returnal. It's like, you're explaining a roguelike. Yeah, you're saying.
So for me, when like Switch Up would do a review, and they'd mention it was a roguelike, I usually just click the review off. But the one I did watch was a first-person cel-shaded game, and all I associated with roguelike was procedurally generated, like endless levels. That was something in my head. I don't know if that's true or not. What was the other thing? Loot, like a loot-based system, and like dungeon crawling type stuff. And maybe if you died, I think Switch Up mentioned one game, you died, you lost all your you just basically is a one-time arcade almost like experience. You play through it as long as you can, you die, and then you start over at scratch, from scratch. That's basically what my knowledge was. I'm finding out there's a lot more variants, there's a lot more sub-genres in it, and I'm going to like play the role of like the ignorant gamer here and kind of try to understand.
Is that a roguelike?
Shit, it's kinda,
right?
It's a roguelite for sure.
Yeah, because when you
Roguelike.
die, you start off as another, and then you. Well, what about? Okay, let's get to the basics here.
The one thing you said that I instantly do disagree with is that, because I don't know in what context they said it, but the main point of a roguelike is that when you die, you don't start from scratch. It's like you gnaw at progress. It's every run, basically, you get a little bit more. For example, let's say you beat to a level and you get, maybe you kill like 10 of a certain enemies, and then it unlocks a better weapon that might appear in the next run. Let's say in some roguelikes, you keep the money you collect, and in the main screen, you buy upgrades from that.
Okay.
The whole point of a roguelike is every time you do a run, you get off a little bit better, and that allows you to progress a little bit further.
So does anybody know what game I might be talking about? It was a first person. It's on Switch, like 2 years ago, like a first person.
You're probably talking about Risk of Rain. You're talking about.
It sounds familiar. I checked Switch Up's channel, see if they reviewed it. But
it might be Risk of Rain that they.
Maybe I just misunderstood them. I thought, to me, that game in particular was like, hey, just go play as far as you get, and then start over. Like it was just probably described poorly, or to somebody he probably assumed people knew what the genre was. So I was.
Retro starts the argument actually, because I disagree with him, because that's not what a roguelite.
That's nothing new.
Roguelike is, the original game Rogue. I think like with a lot of video games, when you go back, you have to remember what they're based off. Even like Final Fantasy.
I figured they had to be based off a game called Rogue.
Everything is so based off Dungeons and Dragons, right? Dungeons and Dragons is one of those foundations of video games, right? And the original Rogue was essentially a Dungeons and Dragons tabletop game. You'd have a character, you go through a dungeon, through a maze, you'd have some stats, and you just keep on going and trying to survive without your character dying. As soon as your character died, you start that shit again. That's it. Game over. start your character again, you lose absolutely everything. That's just gone. Yeah, you just start again. And that was the original Rogue, but games after that, started mixing the formula a bit, which is why I mentioned stuff like the whole Metroidvania thing, where you start getting these subgenres based off what originally was the foundation of Rogue. So when we say roguelike, it was a game called Rogue, and it had nothing to do with thieves or anything like that. It's fantasy based. It's Dungeons and Dragons based, and I think as time has gone on, I think roguelikes have become the more dominant rogue.
You say
type of
light or
game.
like?
Like.
Okay.
So the roguelike part is you do have to tick some boxes. You do have to tick the randomly generated dungeons. You do have to have the permadeath, for a roguelike. And yeah, of course, there's the loot and the character base and all that stuff. But that's more a roguelike.
What was that one that Philip the Fraud
Dead Cells.
for IGN? What was it?
Dead Cells.
Dead Cells. Okay, I was trying to remember.
So Dead Cells is a rogue. I would call
What's
that
the difference with that one?
a rogue light, and that falls into the realms of what I would class Hades as a rogue.
Is that where the
light.
death actually progresses the story? Where did that
Yeah,
come from?
so there is essentially there's no permadeath. But what we do then is that we have this character, we lose a lot of what we gained. But you will always have a foundation, you will always have a base. You will start goes back to the beginning, but you'd always have a foundation to carry on and try to progress just a bit more. And that's what I personally see the difference between a roguelike and a roguelite. Just being more focused on the permadeath, the random dungeons, compared to just taking a few small elements to play around with.
Does Dead Cells have procedurally generated worlds? Or does anybody know?
I haven't actually played Dead Cells, so I don't know.
I think they were procedurally generated, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so...
But you can take the roguelike aspect and add it to different genres. Because I didn't realize it at the time. I just looked at it as a roguelike, and I just thought, okay, that's what they all are like. I bought this on Switch, like probably day one, or at least
was it Has Been Heroes?
Has Been Heroes. This was like a GameStop. I think this was made by like GameStop.
Yeah, that was a GameStop one.
Yeah.
I made it.
And I hate this game. I hated this. And so I just, in my mind, I incorporated roguelikes with this game. I was like, oh, I don't want to play any more games like that. But this is a roguelike action strategy. So, there's obviously, you can merge it with different genres.
Because
for me, it didn't work for action strategy. It's like,
that's
why
a little
too much bullshit going on.
Yeah, because I knew, I remember specifically the first time Clocked It talked about Hades. You were like, this game takes death as a way to progress the story, and it was like, it sounded like your mind was blown by it, by the way they did it, and I was like, damn, that I've never heard of anything like that. I didn't ask if that had been done before. I just assumed that they had done something new there. So
it wasn't essentially new. It's just Supergiants just nailed that narrative drive to really want to keep you pushing forwards, which is something that I didn't really have with other roguelikes or roguelites.
It's a motivation to play again, to start over.
Yeah, so it's like, say for instance, like I haven't played it, but my friends have completed and I've watched loads of it. Let's see, I've got Darkest Dungeon. The Darkest Dungeon, our class is a rogue-like. Because Darkest Dungeon has a procedurally generated dungeons. It has the permadeath, and you have your characters at the beginning. You go down into the dungeon, and as you progress, you get stronger and stronger, but then your characters can all die, you're essentially permanently, so you lose the characters, they're gone forever. And Darkest Dungeon is meant to be, really fucking good. I don't know why I haven't bought it yet. I need to.
That sounds pretty hardcore though. Like
It
character's
is.
gone.
I think it's balls hard. I think from what I've heard.
It is balls hard, but that's why I'm talking about Dungeons and
Balls,
Dragons.
that's not very hard to go.
When we're talking when we're talking classic RPGs and stuff, you know, with stats and all this stuff, they were hard games. You'd have to sit down and play these fucking games with focus and care, because you had to look after your characters.
I can imagine that adds some intensity to it too.
Yeah, or like I mentioned Diablo 2. Now Diablo 2 it's not a roguelike, but it's got rogue light elements. So you can have a permadeath in Diablo 2. It's just hardcore mode, and you create your character, and you just go through the first you go through the 4 acts as you normally would, complete the game. Your character then goes back to Act 1 at the same level with the same gear, and you carry on, and you just try to keep that character alive. But you know, as soon as you lose that character, then in hardcore mode, you could have spent 1,000 hours on that son of a bitch. As soon as he dies, gone forever.
I remember Zombie U, like, yeah, you could go find and get your gear back, but you know, that was for me, that was one of my first tastes in where you, because I never
Zombie U it hasn't got randomly generated levels.
No, but when you die, it's like that character's gone. You start from the base, and you have to go out and try to kill your zombie version of your former character and get your stuff back. If you don't, just like in even more punishing than Hollow Knight, because Hollow Knight's just your currency, I believe. You lost all your weapons are just gone, and it's like I was so devastated by that, and I don't know if that, like, how does that compare to like Demon Souls, Dark Souls? I think, what was the first one? Demon Souls.
Yeah, so they got rogue light elements where if you die, if you've made no progress, if you haven't reached a certain point in that game, and you die, kick your ass all the way back to the beginning while losing a ton of shit.
Yeah.
And if you don't get back to where you were, and you die before you get that usual type of stuff.
I mean, now I gotta kind of disagree with that bullshit. Like, I would not say shit like Demon Souls and Dark Souls have like rogue fucking elements just because when you die you get sent back to a specific point, and then because that's what people used to call like Dark Souls element when you play Hollow Knight. People say, oh, it has that Dark Souls shit, you know, because people don't like that shit. You have to get back just to your currency. That's not really rogue shit to me. Like, and
It's
maybe
It's just one element.
It's not just the currency. It's not just the currency. It's the stat progression as well.
Don't give me
It's
that
stat
shit.
progression, because you have to use that currency in order to level up your character.
So how does it work in
Then you might as well just fucking call it a platform, because sometimes you jump on a hill. It has platformer elements. Like, come on,
no. Because if you don't retain that currency and keep it, you cannot level up.
So you're basically starting back.
progress your
and if you don't keep the currency in Super Mario Brothers, you can't get a life. And then there's no currency.
That was weak.
Come on now.
That was paper thin.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. It is paper thin. Like, okay, so so maybe I just always just think rogue and roguelike and light is maybe different. I see roguelike as a specific thing. Like I said, Flint Hook is one. I played like Rogue Legacy, Abyss Odyssey. Right now, Enter the Gungeon. I'm trying to beat it finally. And all these games are roguelike games, and they have the exact same thing in common, where it randomly generates a world. Most worlds are split in levels. So you have in Enter the Gungeon, for example, you have a floor. You have floor 1, floor 2. It goes up to floor 5. And you go through the floor. You get a shit. You know, you can collect money. You beat a boss. You get extra currency. You get all these weapons in the game and shit. You know, you gear up every time you get to a new floor. You're stronger and stronger to try and beat the boss. And like, you know, you don't make it, you die. You lose all your weapons, you lose all your shit, but there's a specific currency you can keep. So you go back to the main keep. You can use that currency to like maybe unlock a new weapon or some shit like that. You try again. You know, you have nothing new. You just have the chance to maybe get that weapon in one of those random chests. And you try to go more and more. Enter the Gungeon is one of the rare ones where you can actually, if you've played for long enough, unlock maybe shortcuts, so you can start on the second floor. You know, it's one of the rare rogues that actually does that shit. But like the whole point to me is everything is fucking randomly generated. Every time you get a little bit more progression, let's say in Rogue Legacy, for example. If you get far enough, you can unlock like a certain thing, and then you die, and then that will help you in maybe the next run. Like the whole point is to have a really slow progression so that you can maybe the next run be a bit better off.
Yeah, that's what
If
I was
I
going to
may,
ask.
The Wikipedia definition. Roguelike or rogue-like is a subgenre of role-playing video games characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, grid-based movement, and permanent death of the player or character.
Yeah, that was originally obviously the RPG stuff, but now we
Yeah,
got action games.
Can I just stress that I
But
said
rogue-like elements.
Yeah.
It's not completely
yeah,
a rogue-like
elements.
itself.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that's what he
T,
said,
which
elements.
is what I was saying about fucking Bloodborne and stuff, and everything Retro was waffling on about just then. He literally just described fucking Bloodborne and Souls games. Just a slight progression. You get that bit further, you level up that bit more. You die, you
What
go
about-
back, but then you.
Well, how does
It's just elements of it.
when you beat a boss, does that like always stick with you in Bloodborne? Like, you don't have to go kill that boss again, but what do you
No,
get?
you don't.
No, because
You can even save randomly anywhere you want and start at like all this place. Like the progression is the progression in Dark Souls is permanent, and that doesn't make it roguelike to me.
Well, yeah, like if you're playing
I'm talking.
Yeah, he said something about
I'm
some
not- I'm not-
elements.
Oh God!
It's like having Metroidvania elements. Doesn't make it a Metroidvania.
I
The first Tomb
Juice is
Raider,
meant to be the confused one.
Yeah.
He's the only one who fucking understands it.
the first Tomb Raider reboot has Metroidvania elements where you have to find an item to progress in the world, but it's not a Metroidvania game. It's like it just has that one element. So
Right.
here's my question. First of all, Terrell, anybody, have you ever played one? Anybody who's played?
I don't think I have.
I've
What about Binding of Isaacs? I thought that came up when I was searching.
Yeah, I played.
Oh, it does.
I don't know anything about that game, to be honest.
Terrell, you're playing Bloodborne right now.
We count that is.
It's got an element. It's not a.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't think that's technically a roguelike. It has an element
It's
of a
not.
roguelike.
It's
No.
not.
So let me ask some questions then, because one thing I don't understand from the terminology, and I thought I understood it, but you guys told me I was wrong, was, to me, I assumed that when someone said I was on a long run, that meant they started from the beginning at some point after a death, and they went as far as they could got as much accomplished as they could until they died again. To me, I assumed that's what a run was, but you guys made
That
it
is
sound
what
like
I consider a run.
you guys
It
made
is
it sound like is when you're
So-
going
so-
from
Well, no,
start to
because
finish.
it sounded like you're the way you worded it in the chat. Text is different. That's probably why.
Yeah.
From what you're saying, it makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's what a
just a
run
run.
is.
The simple way to put it is just imagine a
it's an
game
attempt.
has like 6 levels. Right, at the end of each level, there's a boss. Okay, but you can complete these levels. You can get from stage 1 to stage 6 in, let's just say, an hour. Okay, and when you get to stage 6, you beat that final boss. That's the run complete. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's the run. It's just basically from getting from the bottom
Pretty
to
much
the top,
beating the game, essentially.
beating the game in that one run. But the difference with roguelikes, that are popular today, so once you complete that run, you go back to level 1. Yeah, you would have gained something. Yeah, some sort of progression, whether it is, whether it could be character development or story development, but maybe even a rare item development. And then back at level 1 again, you work your way back to level 6. But then you're more experienced and some things change, because it's obviously all randomly generated stuff. You're always going to have, many of them are always going to have fixed plot points. So there might be always the same boss at some point, or the same part of the story at some point, as that grounding type of level and stuff. But that's essentially what a run is. You just from start to finish, and then you reset.
What if you
Well,
die,
I mean,
though? It's not a run if you die in the middle?
Yeah,
No,
Because I'm pretty sure.
It
Yeah,
is.
I
It is
consider a run an attempt. You say
Yeah.
It took me
Yeah,
26
I-
runs to beat whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. So even if you had attempting that run, if you die halfway of it, that was your run attempt.
So how does is Hades like how much of Hades is you're exploring the environments versus just
There's,
boss fights?
there's not much exploring.
It's just kind of
Hades.
challenge rooms after challenge
Okay.
rooms, you can say.
Yeah.
So
I would assume that if you're afraid, for example, because of like exploration and repetition, I would assume Returnal, like at some point, once you've played it enough, rooms are gonna start to copy and see similar. You're gonna see like most roguelikes, for example, they have like specific, they're randomly generated, but specifically randomly generated rooms are just, for example, scrambled in a different order. So even if you play Returnal, like let's say you do like 100 fucking runs, you're gonna have seen the game, a lot of the game just over and over again. It depends on how big the game is. You know, like for example, like what Cloak said with like Hades, like the dialogue never repeats. That's just really fucking good game design. But like most of the time, like levels and shit, like the way a room is structured, you're gonna see the same shit.
because
With Hades, and that's kind of the big thing with these games, that you start to memorize rooms. You know what I'm saying? It's like in Hades, I essentially knew the patterns of a lot of rooms where I was like, all right, well, I know I'm going to be able to what this room is going to be, what that room is going to be, and so that's why you're able to get further, because you learn these rooms.
Exactly.
See, I assumed your character
It's just old
was
school gaming.
leveling up and you're getting more powerful, and that's how you
You
could
are
get
kind
further.
of, yeah, you are like in Hades. So like for instance, like let's say they have these different rooms, and they have these each room contains like something. Like one thing would be like darkness, and darkness in Hades lets you gain certain abilities that later on, like if you collect more and more, you could actually essentially put like perks, you could say, towards
Mhm.
something to make yourself
you'd
stronger.
have like a permanent, increase your dodge speed by
Yeah.
0.1% or some
Yeah.
shit like that.
Uh-huh.
As
Robert
you
made a-
decide to invest into these stats, and then the more you play the game, obviously that 0.1 every time you add to it makes your dodge better and better and better.
That's why
until it hits a ceiling. They always block you at a percentage ceiling,
yeah.
maybe.
Well, for someone like me, I had to, in Hades you could get like a death defiance or whatever, where you're able to get like more low lives. So when you die, you can revive yourself again,
Mhm.
come back alive for another round. Like fuck that, I'm not dead yet. And so you continue on,
Yeah.
and then you essentially give yourself lives, and then that's why you go like I think I don't know how long it took you clock. I think you said it was like 19 runs, some amazing thing.
Yeah.
It was really low in my opinion, because it took me like maybe upper 20s runs, and maybe it was low 30s. I don't know, something like that amount of runs, and then finally, I got my first win. You know what I'm saying? I was like, nice. So it took me whatever 30 tries to actually get to the full end and fight the final boss. You know what I'm saying? And then you got for most games you would end Hades story wise. It continues. And
See,
you
that
play
was
more.
I remember Cockett saying that, but I didn't remember it at the time. That I was just assuming your whole goal was working your way until you finally beat the final boss. But it sounds like with Hades, that's just the beginning.
Hades specifically, it is kind of just the beginning, where you want to go back to the final boss like 10 times, and then you actually finish. You finally get credits. It's something.
So
the thing that Robert said is actually really good. That's a big part of it. I feel a big part of the progression in a way is that sometimes you're in a room and a boss you see, oh, that's a cool boss, bam, you're dead. And the next time you see the boss again, it's like, okay, this bitch does this move when I enter the room, so then I move to the left. Like a lot of that is like part of it, like learning how to handle all the rooms and shit. That's why the repetition is like really good in that shit.
So I said I wasn't specifically going to ask about or talk about Returnal, but I am curious now, because I've watched reviews not really knowing. At first, I didn't even know it was even considered a rogue. I didn't know it had procedurally generated, until the previews came out like 2 weeks ago. But one of the things, as somebody who watched reviews not really knowing all this stuff now, I'd be curious. I might rewatch some of them. It sounds to me like getting to the 6th biome and beating that boss is your end objective for Returnal.
Yeah, it's not like it's one and done for Returnal. Like,
because
it's a genuine one
when you
and done.
beat the boss on that biome, it's called, you get a key. So when you die, you just go straight to biome 2. You never have to fight that boss again. You only have to.
That's a shortcut effect, like I said. And the dungeon has that.
Even with that mechanic, sounds like most people are putting like 40 hours in the game. So it must just, and it's got, what intrigued me was hearing about all the exploration, and it has like a Metroid Prime style map system, and it has a ton of exploration on top of, maybe it's still broken into sections of where you have, enemies to face, but it still sounds like you get a grapple up that permanently unlocks. Now you can shoot up to this area and get to an area you couldn't get before. So it's got that Metroidvania element there.
I would say what it's got in there, why it's allowing you to do that, is that it'll be ways to basically on that run, it'll be ways for you to either find better weapons, find better characteristics or movesets to help you on that run. And then, let's just say you got halfway through and then you died, right? You start again, you go, right, actually if I manage to find that type of weapon or find that type of skill that really works for me, that's what I'm going to be trying to look for on every single run in order to make my run personally for me easier.
Yeah.
So that's your personal progression. Like, I love this sword with this dash move. If I can find that within the levels, that's my go-to setup. If I can find those items on each run, and that's what you would essentially do. So maybe like for Rob, when he was playing Hades, he loved his sword.
Yeah, that's all.
In terms of the god that he always chose, he might have chose Poseidon just because he loved to surf on the waves and do multiple damage to everyone. So that's a god you'd always hope to run into on your run. You wouldn't always do it because it's random, but if that god turned up, man, I'm selecting that god on this run.
So I'm curious because if you like beat the 5th boss and I don't know if when you start at your ship, if you have to like get to the room that has all the doorways to the other biomes, or if they're like right there, because it seems to me like I say, I don't know, none of us have played it. I'm curious to talk to somebody who has. Do you just like, all right, I have no reason to go to biome 3 ever again now that I can go straight to biome 4, or is there something in that you could find in the 3rd level that's worth going to?
The way that works in Enter the Gungeon, when you unlock, for example, a shortcut and you start on the 3rd floor, which I can do now, the problem with that is that once you reach the 4th floor, you're missing a fuckload of power-ups that you would have gathered in the previous levels. So you're going to start on the 3rd one, but you're going to be a lot less powerful. Okay. So that's something like if you become really good at the game, you can do.
You become really skilled. Yeah.
So much fucking like...
It's like for example, in Hades, Super Giants did not expect anyone to complete. I don't know why they didn't expect it, because it's fucking gaming, it's the internet. They did not expect anyone to complete Hades on the very first run. They, in some ways, permanently set the game so that it'd be so difficult for you to do that it's almost impossible. But people done it. so the ending doesn't quite make sense compared to how the game starts and stuff, like with the narrative.
Well, that's how I know Robert shit on the article, but the one IGN person said they had early on, like after 1st or 2nd death, they went for over 2 hours and got to things in like biome 3, and some of the story stuff wasn't making sense. Like they'd missed something, and then started it completely over, just started a save file over, and died, not purposely, but made a point to die more frequently, and said there was a bunch of like, I don't know, what do you call them, recordings, and the story actually made more sense not doing that in the beginning.
I would say then Returnal maybe doesn't handle its story the greatest. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's literally, if they're like, oh fuck, I gotta die so I can listen to more of the story. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like there's gotta be a good balance, and it sounds like if that's the case, if the guy feels like he needs to die in order to continue the story, is a little bit odd. Like that just doesn't. Well,
I don't
natural in the way it did it.
They said it's completely. It's not like Hades where every death has like a major, not major, but a story element where it says in Returnal, it's like it might take 2 or 3 deaths to get to what 1 death in Hades equals as far as progressing the story. So it's handled different. I don't know. I haven't played it, so I don't know if it's.
We're talking to Hades a lot, but like I said, narratively, that's why it's such an accomplishment, because it works. It works both ways for surviving and dying. It's just
Well, that's why, like, like Hades, you died every single time. Every character had something different to say. It was insane. And I did play Hades for over 40 something hours, and legit, like, it's incredible. Not one dialogue repeated, like how they say, you meet characters hours on, that I guess you could say attempts on,
Mhm.
and you'll run into these new characters, and then they'll have their own story, and you'll meet them again. Technically, maybe you'll never meet them
There's
again
got to
if you
be
just don't
some. I
play.
wouldn't guess there's
If you
got to be a
can't
limit
play.
at some point.
There's gotta be,
There
I'm sure
can't
if you play like, I don't know,
Maybe the dialogue is
190 runs,
randomly
I'm sure eventually
generated.
you'll get
Yeah.
to something.
And
Yeah.
You could have randomly procedurally generated dialogue. Maybe they just programmed it that fucking good. It's a possibility.
And the
No, but it's
opposite.
voice acted. It's voice acted.
That's crazy.
Everything's voice
Okay.
acted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That
Every
makes it a
single
bit
thing,
different.
every single line is voice acted, which is insane.
And the opposite of
Sounds
that
to me
is
like
Final Fantasy VII Remake, where one person says the same thing every time. Doesn't matter how many times you walk by, that person's saying the exact, like, 3 words. It's like, fuck you. Like, really? You're going to... Then they have a little question, like a little triangle symbol, like, oh, I can talk to this person. And they just say the same thing every... And then even
You
if you
gotta
do...
let some stuff slide.
I get it.
Stuff like that take forever. If
I
you-
know, but it's just like a
Yeah.
complete opposite of that. It's like it was so noticeable that they said they didn't even have 2 lines. It was just everybody had the exact. They only had the 1 line.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
It's
I
not like
get that.
it's not like
Yeah.
Shenmue bad or anything.
But yeah. So I mean, just hearing more about the genre. I mean, it definitely sounds. It's way better than what I thought a roguelike was.
What did you think it was?
I just described just like a endless dungeon crawl
yeah.
game with
Yeah.
procedurally
you
generated,
know,
which
but
that's the
like I said,
beginning.
it's
That's like the
it's
main.
nothing to laugh at. It's like people. It's like trying to explain. What's a Metroidvania to people.
No,
like,
of course.
it's,
No, I know, but
if
it's
you-
interesting to see what people think, like what it is.
Because
Well, that's why also how you said Returnal, people have been playing like 40 something hours. If you look at the little logs, you could see they played 40 something hours, but then you could see how many attempts they did.
yeah, because
You could see like how long it took, how many attempts till it took them to finish it.
'Cause I
Because
think,
really, if we're all real, like the game technically is like probably 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? If someone was amazing and first time he's like, I'm gonna just beat this game, and he just beats it in 2 hours. But you guys playing 40 hours for? I beat the game in 2 hours.
I guess it's
technically-
possible. I don't know though.
technically,
It
It's
could
kind
be
of like Breath
designed
of
in
the
a way
Wild.
where you
Imagine
can't.
like Breath of the Wild. You could technically beat it in 30 minutes or whatever.
But you don't
somehow.
want to risk that because the PS5's been crashing with that game, and they're blaming the PS5 system error. But it's specifically for that game that it's happening to everybody. So it's like there's got to be something you could do too if it's only happening mostly with your game. You can't just blame it on the
Well, maybe
system.
their game
That's
is
like-
actually pushing or not pushing.
I don't know if
Well, no, it is pushing the PS5.
it's.
what I hear,
I'm
but-
sure it is. But at the same time, it's like
That's-
it's like with the Wii U. Black Ops 2 froze up my Wii U. I told the story of sending my Wii U back. It's because every time I play Black Ops 2, it would just completely freeze lock. I'd have to unplug it and plug it back in. And it was that game, and I think Zombie U did it.
It definitely
indie game that
depends
would
on
do
the
it too.
game. What?
There was an indie game that it did it to me all the time on. It was
Oh,
like
the letter,
you
yeah.
play like
So
4 or 5 different characters or something.
So I sent my Wii U back for no. I mean, I got it, and it still did it with Black Ops until they patched it finally, and it stopped doing it. But
Darksiders 2 on the Wii U actually crashed a fuckload. But it had that kind of crash that the Wii U did where it just froze and it you hear this fucking noise all the time and shit.
oh yeah, mine would fucking screech.
The thing with Darksiders is very strange, and it has to be on the game always. With Darksiders, there was a thing where if your Miiverse language wasn't set to English, like compared to your system, that's when it would do it. So I would often go to Miiverse, and people in the Miiverse were like saying, "Oh, my game's crashing," and I could say like, "Oh, well, it's because your Miiverse language is not set correctly," and shit. It was a really strange thing. Like I 100% believe that it's a Returnal issue and not really a PS5 issue.
And
There's
it's
something
unfortunate.
in the game that they just did wrong.
Because like the reason I brought all this up was how many people seem to not understand how, because it all stemmed from it was John Linneman asking for a way to save mid-run, like that was the whole thing. But there was people who thought you had to play Returnal, never turn it off.
Yeah.
40 hours or whatever, you had to just always suspend it, and you could never play another game or anything, otherwise you lose everything you gain. And it's like, no, there's points where you get the grapple hook and you have it
Going
forever.
Back to the NES days there, boy.
And so people were saying that, and then other people were saying that it breaks the game because you can just load up your save file. People are like, no, I'm not asking to load up a save file, just have a continue, and as soon as I continue, it deletes that save, and I can't, like, just something.
How dumb do you have to be to think you're making a game that you have to play for 30 hours straight?
Yeah, I mean that's people. People are dumb. They say a person's smart, but people are dumb. So when you get a hot topic going on, and
I heard this,
and then honestly, when I first started reading, I was like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, I didn't understand how the game worked, so I was like, that sounds stupid. And then based on a couple people, it's like their thread that they took off in a different direction. Oh my god, that sounds ridiculous. And then once I learned a little bit more, I was like, oh, okay, the game's intentionally designed for death's almost a way to progress the story. So I thought I'm thinking early game, if I play this game, deaths, if I gotta turn the game off, then I'll just die, like, what's the big deal? But then I figured out you're talking later in the game when you're like on a run to get to the end, that would suck.
Yeah,
for sure.
but in my mind, you're always running to get to the end.
Damn,
there's no way. Like, what are you running to just?
Trying to find this bitch.
You're running to get to the end. In the end of the day, like that's your run. That's
but
what I'm
that. I mean, the average time so far is 40 hours. At hour 10, I'm not going to expect to beat the game. Like.
Hey man, you never know. Maybe you're.
I'm not that good. I know I'm not that good.
You never know, yo. You never know.
But,
maybe you're gonna be amazing.
So it was just kind of one of those things where I was just like,
deleted it.
And then it does suck though. Like, honestly, I was gonna buy the game on Friday until I found out. Luckily, I forget what reviewer was like, yeah, the game's been crashing. Maybe there's the day one update might fix it. I'm like, hell no. For this game. And then find out that it doesn't have a save feature, so like if you're 2 hours in and it crashes, they say it works. Not if it crashes, but if you just hit start and exit the game, it acts just like a death. Like, it'll save whatever permanent thing you have. But if it crashes, I think you're fucked. And I'm like, I don't care. It's just whatever the issue is, they got to figure it out, because I don't know if published the game, if it was Sony or not, but it's an exclusive. Somebody had to pay somebody for it. And if this game's crashing,
Sony's publishing it, yeah.
And we got, it's like the first true exclusive game of your console generation. You got to get the shit figured out. Like, I know it was delayed from its original release date by over a month.
It's so strange because how widespread it kind of tends to be. Like, I find it hard to believe they wouldn't have known that issue if they tested it enough.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling like they knew it, because even Robert Rule 2, he was like, oh, I'm 10 hours in, loving the game, and then the next tweet, yeah, it just crashed. It just crashed on me. And then
that's why you should just have a fucking save feature where you could just leave. It's the weirdest shit.
But
especially
it crashed while he was playing it, though. I mean, you'd still have to have saved manually.
Yeah, beforehand. That's true. He still would have had to have quit and exit. So he got no, I get you.
That's a no for me. Like, as much, even as interested as I was, and then having this discussion, I mean, I'm intrigued by it and the genre now. But if this shit's gonna crash, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that.
Microsoft Word fucking will save your shit before it crashes.
Yeah. And then like Robert,
that shit for decades.
Was it Donkey? He had auto update enabled, so it updated, and obviously it closes your game when your system updates because it restarts.
That's crazy. Imagine playing that game where you're literally in a damn run, and all of a sudden you turn on because everyone's like, "Oh, just put on rest mode," and then you have to close the game. Fuck that. That's crazy.
I've never had that happen to a game I had suspended, but on Switch I've had a game suspended. I went to resume it, and it's like there's an update for this game, and there's no option to go into the game, save it, which I usually save before I go to sleep mode anyway. It's just a habit. I do it every time. but I might have been at that one time where I was like, well, it
but
has an update. I can say I'm gonna not go. I want to play without updating, but I don't know if it was an online game or something. It won't let me until it updates. It won't let me even play it, so I can't go in and do anything. So I just had to close the
What game
game.
was that, yo?
I can't remember.
You
It's
remember?
on the Switch. It was a couple.
Well,
couple
in
years
regards
ago.
to Eternal, number one, you're lucky. There's no permadeath, so that's not an issue.
I found the Wii U game
that would be an issue.
The
And
cave.
like I said
Anybody remember that?
before, the cave, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you talking about
That
that.
used to crash my. It would go. Beep.
That's what mine used to do.
And why that's what Dark Side is
You
good.
need
Yeah.
to plug that bit.
I already had that with
It was horrible.
I already had that with Need for Speed, Most Wanted You.
Yeah.
That's the only time it happened.
Well,
with
imagine that
Most
sound on having your surround system cranked up, and I have to fucking try to get up and quickly turn that off. But anyway, you were saying something, Clocked it. You're talking about.
All I was talking about, Returnal doesn't have permadeath, so you lose your run, but hell, you start again. And like I said, the other problem is, the length of how long it takes to do a run in this game initially. For people first trying it and stuff, it sounds like a good chunk of time. So that's a bit of a detriment to the play style of this type of game. If you have no saving it, if a run was 45 minutes, something like that, and whatever you couldn't save, you'd be like, oh fuck it, fine, I'll try again tomorrow. Just 45 minutes, But if you're having to pump 2 hours into a session,
especially if the crash, like, I don't know, if it, let's say you got like the grappling hook or whatever, and you're close to the 2 hour mark, and then if crashes, if you lose that completely, then that would suck even, that's completely different. So, but something similar happened to me with Final Fantasy VII, where the last boss, well, you think it's the last boss, there's 2 boss fights. One's just, I mean, I don't know, 45 minutes probably the first time. And I'm like, Jesus, I want to, like, I'm done playing for the night. And then I got this, I started Sephiroth battle, spoilers, you fight him. And
that's spoilers because that's not in the original game.
He whooped my ass. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, I want to play something else. And I'm done. So I, hit, instead of restart from battle or last checkpoint, I just exit the main menu. And then I don't know what I played, probably Immortals. But so the next day, I turned it on kind of late, and it was kind of later in the day, and I was like, let me go fight him real quick. Well, it took me to before the major fight, the 45-minute fight is gone. It took me back to the start of that whole sequence. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So I turned it off. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna beat this game now. I'm like, that pissed me off. I just lost 45 minutes of that fight plus the 20 minutes I've spent.
I noticed that with the FS7 remake. As soon as I saw the Scorpion tank battle at the beginning, I was like, they're doing no fucking damage to this new creature now. It's jumping around the whole fucking screen. Jump onto the side of the walls. You can only use fucking Barra to try and fucking kill it. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? This is talk about stretching out a battle that would take
until you get your elemental attacks and stuff.
But even when you get, you're talking Final Fantasy 7 to me, Juice. You get lightning materia. Straight fucking Cloud starts off with lightning fucking materia.
I don't think I had any equipped, honestly. Maybe I had lightning.
That's how you beat the tank boss essentially. But, it's lightning. But I was just like, I know you want to be epic, but goddamn, these are some long ass looking battles, man.
Well, there's one against
Final Fantasy VII.
But when you have 3 party members and you have weapons that hold 4 Maternia, whatever, materia. I can want to say Maternia, like Returnal or something.
Never ended story or something.
So you got, you can hit, hey, lightning network. So let me try fire on this person. Let me try wind, the wind move. And I found I liked it better when they were away from me, so they weren't constantly ramming me and killing, just like doing huge damage by their charging attack. So yeah, get up on that fucking wall so I can hit you with my elementals and fucking breathe for a second. Like that was actually, I liked when they got away from me.
The main thing that sucks about the cutscene related fights is because let's say you charge up your limit and you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go for
Oh
it,"
yeah, it
because
sucks.
and then you realize, oh, but the cutscene has to trigger before you can do more damage to it.
Well, it's
So you
usually
waste the
like
limit
halfway on the
down.
bar will trigger
Yeah.
like a second wave attack or they'll
Yeah.
a cutscene. Yeah, I did my limit and I didn't realize that my limit break and it only barely moved it and then it started the cutscene.
Yeah, because the goal was to hit the trigger the cutscenes. I'm like,
Well, I learned that though. I learned not to do that.
that's a bad design in general. I always hate it.
But yeah, I was bummed, and then the next day I beat that first boss in like 20 minutes, and then I looked up one strategy, and I didn't know you use the Punisher mode as somebody's doing a physical attack to counter. And I played the whole game not knowing that, and I was like, oh, that made life a lot easier. So I ended up with 40 hours total in the game, which was surprised me. So, but yeah,
Well, at least you have.
I mean, I enjoyed the story and I enjoyed the game. I'm
Of course, you're gonna enjoy the story. It's Final Fantasy fucking 7. Game's off the fucking chain. It's just
That problem
change
with
it.
Sephiroth shows up so fucking
Yeah.
early.
And you guys, I shared some screenshots and stuff. Like, I don't know how many I took total, like 80.
Took too damn
Well, the
many.
whole last chapter, you couldn't take screenshots. It says
What?
recording disallowed for this section of the game or something. Like,
Oh, Square Enix doing that bullshit. Where
So,
like, oh, it's spoilers.
so I think I took like 80 to 90 screenshots of the game, and Tifa was like in 35 of them. Something.
Yeah, I figured as much.
But it was just because a lot of them I was just taking like scenery shots and she was in the party. You know, it wasn't
Yeah, of
like
course.
intentional.
Sure.
But then when you're
Yeah.
playing as her and she's doing the what do you call it? The
Monkey
where you-
bar thing?
Monkey bars, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
I was like,
that's
yeah,
the one you said.
I don't mind this
You
kind of
like
padding.
assembling this dildo?
Yeah,
What the fuck are you
literally.
doing? T?
Yeah,
What's the
T's got
message?
like a pregnancy test.
There's a fucking dildo he's like assembling and shit.
It's not a pregnancy test.
What
son.
is it?
It looks like a
Oh,
dildo.
Wii U.
It's a
God.
Wii U vibrator.
What is
Yeah, that's what I
Sure.
think it is. That's the new vitality sensor right there.
What the fuck is that? A stylus?
It's a stylus, son.
That is the most
Obscure-ass Wii U
high-tech
product,
stylus,
son.
yo. That is a futuristic looking stylus.
You know,
Is it a pregnancy test?
I was just, it's literally just solid white with the being.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What happened? Another one.
Random thing here, but I don't like, because I used to do a lot of drawing and stuff. I can't handle like something. It's gonna sound stupid, something that size. Like I need I need a pencil. My hands would get sore. Like I need something like a pen or a pencil size like that. I can't handle something that girth and
Not
like
that
write.
thick, yo.
It like kills my hands to write with like a bigger pen like that.
Kills your hands to hold something that
Like
thick.
this?
Yeah,
It's heavy too. This guy-
like
this guy's
markers
bigger
and
than
stuff. Yeah, I can't.
Girth, weight.
I need something. I could rather use like the tiny stylus. Is more
Probably why they
comfortable.
didn't sell well.
All right, Juice. Would this be considered too big for you?
No,
Okay.
but
He likes a little stylus.
I like the original in the gamepad stylus, man. That's perfect.
Yeah, I
for me.
like that. I like that too. I like the little gamepad. I started playing Super Mario 3D World again because I finished.
I got
I finished Odyssey. I forgot to talk. That's what I should have talked about. That I actually 100% Odyssey for the first time.
Yeah.
finally, which was nice. I was like, nice. I'm never doing that again. It was awesome.
You're like, nice. I'm never doing it again.
I would love to replay the game again, but not 100%. It's a checklist at that point. It's all right. But
Yeah.
great game, fantastic, perfection. But 100%ing.
Yeah, I will stand by my statement that the second playthrough of the main story is good, if not
Amazing.
better than the first time.
Yeah, it's so.
There's no way I'd ever go for all those moons ever again. Like that was like I had to
too much.
farm coins
Yeah.
to get. I forget what I was going for, just for some. I don't know if it was a piece of the costumes or something. I feel like I had to do it for some.
Yeah, I
something I
did.
was going after.
I did the Luigi's Balloon World. I just kept doing like the same, but to get like a bunch
Like,
of coins.
that's not a good game design if I have to farm
Yeah.
for coins, play the same level 20 times in a row so I can.
Just like unlock some
something.
costume, yeah. or something.
You showed that earlier, T.
And then so that's how I started getting into 3D World. And man,
double?
3D World's so
Yeah,
fun. Man.
you actually did that. That pose.
This is $400+ worth of Switch game, right? Games.
Really?
Why do you?
Yeah, and I bought this shit by accident.
Oh, okay.
By accident.
Damn.
35
So
bucks.
yeah, I think we'll get out of here. Trell, you didn't say much last hour, but it's fine. You were listening, and
I was attentive. Fuck.
you weren't falling asleep, so that's good. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in, and and we'll see you guys next week.
Christ.